Hey, it's Kyle here, and I just got back from DragonCon 2025 in Atlanta. It's my favorite thing to do every year. I look forward to Labor Day weekend every year so I can go back to DragonCon. Absolutely love it. If you're not familiar with DragonCon, I'm not going to try to explain what the entire convention is now. I've done another video about tips on attending DragonCon, so I'll put that link in the description box below, so check that out. That'll give you a little bit better idea of what DragonCon is all about. But it's basically, quick summary, 70, 80,000 nerds all come together in Atlanta for an amazing convention. There's 40 or 50 different tracks that cover so many different topics that whatever you're nerdy about, DragonCon has a lot of content about it. It's based in several hotels. Basically, the convention goes 24/7 the entire Labor Day weekend. Probably the biggest party nerds have in the United States the entire year. It's also really known for amazing cosplay and stuff like that. But I've been attending DragonCon, I guess, for a little bit over a decade now. In the last few years, I've also got a chance to be a panelist for some of the Star Wars stuff. So I really enjoy several aspects of DragonCon. And so the last few years, I've had a tradition when I've got back home, I've kind of recapped my experience at that year's DragonCon. So that's what today's video is. I'll say overall, my experience at this year's DragonCon was awesome. Had no complaints, really. Didn't run into any issues at the convention. Weather is beautiful. Labor Day weekend in Atlanta, it can a lot of times still be super hot. We've been having super mild temperatures lately in Atlanta. So it's perfect weather for DragonCon. When you had to go outside to walk between the hotels, weather was comfortable. Everything I went to was a lot of fun. I didn't really run into any rude or awful people. So my DragonCon 2025 experience was really awesome. So I'm going to recap to you everything I did at DragonCon 2025. I'll be looking down at my phone. DragonCon has a really great app and it allows you to build your schedule, so I kind of keep track of everything I do. So I'm just going to look back and make sure I don't forget anything that I attended while at DragonCon 2025. I'll say maybe the biggest change for this year's DragonCon is really, for most of its history, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are the big days. You can start picking up your badges on Thursday. It's just kind of officially a day of the con, but not a whole lot went on. And really into the last couple years, not really people went on Thursday. So for a lot of locals, it was a great day to go get your badge. The lines would be as long. That's when a lot of that people from out of state would fly in and check in the hotels. But Thursday wasn't really a big day. That's begun to change, and this year it really changed. Now a lot of out-of-towners are coming in on Wednesday. So the hotels had big things Wednesday night to count down to midnight to celebrate the start of the con. When I went to get my badge on Thursday, there was a lot more people there than normal. So I'd say, it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday were the big days. Now Thursday is joined as really big as well. There's just not quite as many events and activities, but I think they're going to realize this many people are coming earlier. They're probably going to start adding more and more activities and events on Thursday. So really now the only day on the con that's kind of small is Monday, which is a half a day, because obviously they only kind of can go so long because they know people out of state are having to check out their hotels to leave. So it's more panels. There's not really a whole lot of cosplay going on that day. You'll see a few, but Monday's really the only small day at this point. So Thursday being a big day is the biggest change for this year's DragonCon, in my opinion. I'll also mention in regard to cosplay, saw a lot of amazing cosplay. If you want to check out some of my cosplay photos that I took while I was there, follow me on Instagram. I posted a lot of there, and that link will be in the description box below as well. I don't cosplay myself. I just wear a lot of nerdy t-shirts, but amazing cosplay. One thing I'll say this year, a lot of times at DragonCon, there's like a cosplay that's the dominant cosplay for that year's convention. So for example, a couple years ago when Barbie came out, you couldn't go anywhere in DragonCon without seeing Barbie and Ken and hearing people say like, hey Barbie, hey Barbie, hey Ken, hey Ken. That was just nonstop. You just heard it nonstop at DragonCon. I don't think this year there was really a dominant cosplay. Maybe the closest to that was K-pop Demon Hunter, but it was nowhere near the level that Barbie was a couple of years ago. So I found that interesting. In regard to what I did at DragonCon, let's start going over my schedule. So Friday, I actually started out my day being a part of a panel. I was on the panel about Star Wars: The High Republic, talking about that publishing initiative now that it is wrapped up. I had a lot of fun. It was a really great discussion. I love The High Republic a lot. Everybody else on the panel were big High Republic fans as well. Obviously, if you volunteered for that panel, a lot of great discussion from the audience. And one thing I reflected on a few years ago at DragonCon, I got to be on the panel the first year that the High Republic had started to come out, and the people on the panel that year is like, I wonder if we'll see any High Republic cosplayers. Like we saw one person cosplaying as a High Republic character that year. It was still brand new. Here a few years later, there were so many people in the audience that was cosplaying High Republic characters. The room was packed. It was really impressive to see the impact that publishing initiative has had on the Star Wars fandom. I actually love the High Republic, and I'm so glad that I got to be a part of the panel to kind of be a part of the discussion, the official wrap-up of that series. Next up, I attended a space panel. That's always one of the things I love about Dragon Con is like they have these things where they bring in academic experts and stuff like this. So I attended a panel about aurora at different planets in the solar system, which is a topic I never really thought about. You know, we have auroras here on Earth, and basically these scientists were basically talking about like, yes, other planets in our solar system also have that. What is it like on the other planets? Which ones have strong ones? Which have weak ones? And why is that the case? It was very fascinating, and I really loved it a lot. Next up that day, I actually attended the art show at the Hyatt. That's something I only started doing a couple of years ago. I kind of stumbled into the room by mistake. I was kind of looking for something else. I was like, oh, there's the art show. I've never went to that. Let me go check it out. And ever since then, I've made a point to always go to the art show. It's absolutely amazing. Unlike the vendor hall, which has massive long lines to get in, the art show doesn't really have any lines. The room's definitely crowded, but you don't have to wait to get in the room. You'll see some amazing art. It's all for sale. But even if you're not buying, it's just amazing just to walk around and check out all the amazing nerdy art. There's so many talented people at Dragon Con. It's very cool. And I think a lot of people don't attend the art show because I think some people don't realize the art show, you can actually buy the stuff at the art show. I think they almost think you can only buy stuff at the vendor mart and not at the art show. So if you're looking to buy some nerdy art at Dragon Con, go to the art show. You won't be disappointed. After that, I attended a panel, the ILM model shop behind the scenes. That's ILM stands for Industrial Light Magic, which is basically the special effects company that George Lucas started to make Star Wars possible. And Vaughn Davis was actually the speaker who worked for ILM for years and years. And hearing his stories about all the movies he worked on, like the Star Wars prequels, all the other movies he's worked on throughout his career on the special effects side, building models and stuff, was absolutely fascinating. He brought a lot of photos, kind of did a slideshow of the stuff he's worked on. It was one of the more interesting panels I've ever attended at Dragon Con. I hope I get a chance to attend more of his panels in the future if he comes back to Dragon Con. It is really cool to kind of hear about the history of the movies that so many of us love so much. Next up, I attended a panel, Military Sci-Fi Deathmatch, Stargate Heroes versus Villains. The Stargate TV shows, various ones, I'm a huge fan of. Obviously, there hasn't been a new one in a long time, but Dragon Con always does a decent amount of Stargate content, not as much as they used to because it's been so long since the show came out, but they'll still do a few panels every year, and this was a fun one where the audience got to vote on basically bracket style of which Stargate heroes was the best and which Stargate villains were the best, and then if you pair those two off, who would win, the hero or the villain. So if you were a Stargate fan, that one was a lot of fun. Next up, I attended a panel, Space Above and Beyond 30 Years Later. And this is one of those things I think really shows you what Dragon Con's all about. It could focus on some random stuff that most people have never heard of. Space Above and Beyond was a sci-fi show that was on Fox just for 1 year, 30 years ago, so this was the 30th anniversary. I was 12 years old when it came out. I loved the show. Like I said, got canceled after 1 year. I have not talked to anybody about that show in 30 years. But when I was perusing the Dragon Con schedule, I was like, oh, there's a fan panel about Space Above and Beyond. I want to go, even though I don't remember the show that well. It'll just be neat to be in a room with other people that enjoyed that show. And it was really cool to be in a room with that many people that were passionate about a show that was only on for one season 30 years ago that most people have no idea that even existed. And it was really fun. I think it really is all what Dragon Con is about. Celebrating everything that's nerdy, not just the big mainstream stuff. The smallest little niche TV show that was on 30 years ago that most people forgot or never aware existed still gets a panel at Dragon Con. Next up, I attended William Shakespeare Star Wars fan reading. This is one of my favorite Star Wars panels I go to every year. Ian Dosher wrote these great books, basically doing a Shakespearean adaptations of episode 1 through 9. They're amazing, and every year Star Wars Track does reenactment of one of those books. This year's Return of the Jedi. The cast is made up of Dragon Con attendees. The costumes are really amazing. It's always a lot of fun. Absolutely love it. And I make a point to attend this every year at Dragon Con. And then the last thing I attended on Friday at Dragon Con was another panel that I was a part on, and that was Star Wars, Cowboys, and Pirates. And this, me and the other panelists just talked about the very common motif of characters in Star Wars very much being cowboys or pirates, and why that is, which characters relate to which ones, what's the positives of that, is there any negatives to that, what we love about that, and how that makes Star Wars a lot of fun. It was a very fun discussion. It was a very random thing. Honestly, until I got added to this film, I never really had a discussion like, oh, let's talk about cowboys and pirates and Star Wars. And it was a lot of fun to be a part of this discussion. Again, these panels at Dragon Con, especially the Star Wars track, it's not always about the obvious stuff. It's like, hey, let's dive into some weird random stuff. I think they said this year this discussion was kind of inspired by Skeleton Crew. That show obviously was heavily influenced by pirates, and kind of got like, hey, let's figure out a fun way to discuss this. And that's what happened, and I really enjoyed it. On Saturday morning, there's a huge Dragon Con parade. I've been a few times this year. I only caught a small portion of it because I've been to a few times. But if you've never been to Dragon Con before, I'd highly recommend it. It's an amazing parade made up of cosplayers, vehicles from your favorite nerdy movies and TV shows and books and video games. It's an amazing parade. So I watched about 10 or 15 minutes of it, but not a lot, because basically, like I said, I've been there for a few years, and I actually was on a couple panels on Saturday, so I kind of decided to start my con experience a little bit later that day so I could kind of prep for my panels. But the first panel I did attend was We're Going to Need a Bigger Boat, the 50th anniversary of Jaws. Jaws is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's absolutely amazing. If you didn't know, this year is the 50th anniversary of it. So there was a very fun fan discussion about Jaws, what was awesome about it, how it changed movies, how it impacted our world. I absolutely loved it. Next up, I attended Warehouse 13, Villainy and the Finest. Warehouse 13 was my favorite shows that was ever on the Sci-Fi Network. Absolutely loved it. It's been a few years since it is off. This panel was just supposed to be a fan discussion about the villains of Warehouse 13. The Eddie McClintock, who was the lead actor in Warehouse 13, was at Dragon Con, kind of doing in the Walk of Fame where you do photos and stuff. He wasn't scheduled to be in this panel, but he just saw there was a Warehouse 13 fan panel. I was like, hey, I should come over and be a part of that. So he joined the panel. And it was absolutely amazing to hear his stories from the experiences from the show, the fans discussing what they loved about Warehouse 13. Absolutely loved it. Warehouse 13 is an amazing show. I wish there'd be more Warehouse 13 content. Anytime I've seen the Eddie McClintock at Dragon Con, he's absolutely amazing. Love this experience at Dragon Con. Next up, I attended a classic sci-fi deep dive, The Twilight Zone's The Obsolete Men. Love Twilight Zone. Obsolete Men is one of my favorite episodes. Definitely relates a lot to what's going on in the world today. And basically before the panel, they showed the episode in its entirety, and then the panel just, for an hour, the fans on the panel talked about what this show was, why it was so important, the messages behind it, and how it relates to our world today. And it was a very moving panel. People really related to how this reflects what's going on in the world today, and what we can learn from this episode, and hopefully how we can translate to our existence in our world today. So it's a lot of fun. Love the Twilight Zone. Any chance to talk about a Twilight Zone episode is very cool in my mark. Next up is the first panel I was a part of on Saturday, and this one actually moderated, and that is Ahsoka and Star Wars Rebels Revisited. And basically we talked about the Ahsoka series, and how it's kind of basically almost like a sequel to Star Wars Rebels. So we talked about that series a little bit as well. Like I said, I had a lot of fun moderating this panel, and I was very honored, in addition to some really amazing fans joining me on the panel. Henry Gilroy was also on the panel. If you don't know who he is, he helped create the character Ahsoka. He was a writer on the Clone Wars. He was a writer on Star Wars Rebels, and obviously had a huge role in shaping the character Ahsoka before she entered into the live-action world of The Mandalorian and then later Ahsoka. So it was really cool to be able to moderate a panel with somebody that was actually involved in creating the character. Packed room. This is probably the panel I was on that had the biggest attendance. A lot of fun discussions about Ahsoka and Rebels, two of my favorite things in Star Wars, so that was a lot of fun. And then I moderated another panel immediately after that building the rebellion in Star Wars, and basically talked about how the rebellion was built in Star Wars. This is where I leaned in on my political science degree, so I got to combine my knowledge of politics with my love of Star Wars. Had a lot of great panelists join me and discuss like how the rebellion was built in Star Wars, the various steps, how that kind of relates to things that have actually happened in our world. A lot of great questions from the audience on this panel. Like I said, I'm very passionate about history and politics, and I'm very passionate about Star Wars. So anytime I get to be a part of a panel that combines those, that's really cool. And I had a lot of fun moderating this panel as well. After this was the Star Wars Trivia Qualifying Test. DragonCon has a huge Star Wars trivia thing. You actually have to take a written test to qualify for the official contest. This is the second year I've taken the written test. Proud to say I did my best score ever, which was 27 out of 50, which sounds bad, but the average score is 21. 8 people qualified for the finals. The questions on this test are so insanely hard. It kind of humbles you. It's like, oh, there's a lot of stuff about Star Wars I actually don't know, but still have a lot of fun doing it, and I'm really happy that I basically got the best I've ever got on that test. I wanted to break 25. I think last year I did 24, so I was really happy I broke 25, and I think in my opinion did pretty good with 27. On Sunday, I wasn't a part of any panel, so I just got to kind of be attendee. The first panel I attended was Resident Alien, Small Town Earthlings, and a few very lost aliens. And if you're not a fan of Resident Alien, that series just concluded. It's one of probably my favorite sci-fi show that's non-Star Wars related that has been on in the past few years, and just did wrap up this year. So this was a great fan panel talking about what the show was like, how we felt about the conclusion of the series. I'll miss Resident Alien so much, but this panel was a really nice discussion about a really amazing show that was funny but also had some really deep messages behind it. Next up, I attended a panel MCU Insurance and the Blip, and this is basically talking about like how insurance companies would have reacted in the world of MCU when the blip happened, what issues would that cause, how that would impact the government, how that would impact society. It was a very interesting discussion, and a lot of stuff I'd never thought of in regard to the blip's impact on society. So that was a lot of fun. Next up, I attended a panel, Silo fan discussion panel. Really love the show Silo. Now that Resident Alien's off there, Silo might be my favorite non-Star Wars related sci-fi show. Dystopian's really a great show, I believe, on Apple, if I remember correctly. I lose track of my streamers, but I believe it's on Apple. And I don't really know anybody else in my life who actually watches Silo, so that's another great thing about DragonCon. You can go and actually get a chance to talk about a show that maybe nobody else you know in your real life actually is into, but DragonCon, there's a room full of people talking about Silo. And then I attended a 28 years later fan panel discussion. That's one of my favorite movies I've seen this year. I really enjoyed it. Interestingly, the panelists were kind of mixed on the movie, where I was a little bit of a bigger fan. But it was still an interesting discussion, and I kind of really did enjoy hearing their opinions on why maybe parts of the movie didn't work for them. Next up, I attended the Star Wars Trivia Finals. Since I didn't make it, I always attend. I've been going to that finals every year I go to DragonCon. It is probably my favorite thing to go to at DragonCon. The trivia contest is so fun to watch. It was, again, really amazing this year. The person that won is actually from Australia. It's his first time he ever attended DragonCon. He found out about this trivia contest a few years ago and decided he really wanted to attend. And he basically spent the last 2 years studying Star Wars content to get ready for this contest, and basically came to DragonCon specifically for this, and he won, which is really cool. And then he actually won another game of trivia, because this was the 50th anniversary of the trivia contest. They did another round of trivia, a game of trivia, I should say, just about Jar Jar Binks, which is kind of a joke related to Star Wars trivia. They always try to have a round just about Jar Jar. So this year they did an entire game of Jar Jar Binks trivia, and the Australian won again. He went 2-0, which is well worth it, because he said the trip is so expensive, he's not sure if he'll ever get to come back to DragonCon again. So I think it's really cool that somebody put that much effort, 2 years in studying, to come and take that test, qualify for finals. Not even know if he's going to qualify, and then winning the game, and then winning another game of trivia. So that was really, really cool. And then we go to Monday at DragonCon, which is again half a day. The first panel I attended was Classic Sci-Fi Roller Panel 1990 versus in 2000. Basically, this panel is like they have a 20-sided dice. They assign the numbers to random movies from those 2 decades. They roll the dice, and whatever movie comes up, the panel talks about for 2 minutes, and then they move on. So it's their fun way of saying, like, obviously they can't do a panel for every movie they want to, so this is a way they can have a quick discussion about a lot of movies. Some movies I've seen, some movies I've never even heard of. It's always a lot of fun. The Classics track at Dragon Con always has a lot of fun panels. Most times not super serious, although they did do the Twilight Zone Absolute Men, which delved into some deep issues, but most of their panels are super funny, super wacky, super weird, and this Rolla panel one is always this. I think I've attended this 2 or 3 times. It's always a lot of fun. And then the last panel that I was a member of was Star Wars: Why the Empire Fell. This was kind of a sequel to a panel I was a part of last year about why the New Republic failed, and this panel was kind of comprised a lot of people like myself, either has degrees in political science or works in the government, has worked in the military, and basically kind of deep diving into the politics and military side of the empire, and basically like, why exactly did the empire fail, and did it have to fail? Were there steps they could have taken where the empire could have had a more stable government and lasted a lot longer than it did? Again, love these panels where I get a chance to combine my politics side of my brain with my Star Wars side of my brain. Absolutely loved it. The audience, we had a packed room for Monday morning, which was actually amazing. We got a lot of great questions from the audience. A lot of people came up afterwards and said like they really love that we do these political panels at Dragon Con about Star Wars, and was pitching us ideas for political panels for next year at Dragon Con. So it's a lot of fun. Really enjoyed this one a lot. And then the last panel I attended at Dragon Con was 10 Years of Star Wars: The Force Awakens. And as this name suggests, there's just a bunch of fans up there just talking about The Force Awakens on its 10-year anniversary, reflecting on the movie, what they liked, what they didn't like, what they didn't necessarily maybe like in relation to how the 8 and 9 followed up to Episode 7, and what they're hoping to see with new Star Wars movies that will involve characters from The Force Awakens. So it doesn't feel like The Force Awakens has been out for 10 years, so that was kind of humbling to like, oh God, that was 10 years ago, but it was a nice discussion and a nice wrap up to my Dragon Con. In between that, obviously I took some time off to kind of walk around the hotels, check out all the amazing cosplay. I got to ran into a lot of people I know, which was a lot of fun. So I really enjoy Dragon Con. If you've never been, I highly recommend it. If you have any questions about Dragon Con, let me know in the comment section below. My social medias are listed in the comments, description below. Feel free to contact me via social media. I'm like, hey Kyle, tell me more about Dragon Con. But the simplest way to learn about Dragon Con is just go to YouTube and just search Dragon Con, or go to Instagram and search the Dragon Con hashtag, and I think you'll see it and go like, oh, I want to go to Dragon Con. If you do, I'd recommend buy your passes as soon as possible. Basically, the passes for next year, 2026, have already went on sale, and this is the cheapest they'll be, and basically, as the con gets closer, like every month or two, the price goes up, and the price goes up, and the price goes up. So now is the best time to get your tickets, because they'll be the cheapest they'll ever be. So that is my plug for Dragon Con, even though I don't get any cut from that. I don't work for Dragon Con. I just love it and want as many people as possible to experience the awesome fun that is Dragon Con. So let me know in the comment section below. Did you attend Dragon Con this year? If you did, what was your favorite part? If you have any questions about Dragon Con, let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate the support. If you saw me at a panel at Dragon Con, let me know in the comment section below. I know a lot of people picked up my cards where I promote my channel, so maybe I might have some new viewers. So if so, welcome to my channel. Thank you for checking me out after Dragon Con. I hope you enjoyed the panels I was a part of. So thanks for watching. I'll see you the next time, and may the Force be with you.